You're too old to travel, stay home. That's what my daughter Ashley screamed at me in front of 15 people at our backyard barbecue. I had just shared my dream of traveling around the world. 40 years of planning, 40 years of saving. And she called it a ridiculous midlife crisis. I'm Derek Sullivan, 72 years old, retired Boeing engineer. I raised Ashley alone from age 3, worked 3 jobs to pay for Stanford, spent $85,000 on her wedding. I thought she'd at least respect my dreams. Instead, she told me to act my age while our neighbors watched in silence. Nobody defended me, not one person. I smiled and quietly put away my photo album. But before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Have you ever had a family member dismiss your dreams? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about quiet justice. 3 days later, I did something they never thought I'd dare do. I need to take you back to understand what that moment meant. Ashley's mother left when she was 3, said I wasn't ambitious enough. "You're just a mechanic with delusions," she told me before disappearing forever. So I became everything Ashley needed. I worked the morning shift at Boeing as an engineer, afternoons fixing cars at Murphy's garage, nights as a security guard at the mall. My hands were rough and calloused. My clothes smelled like motor oil. But Ashley never went without. Every school play, I was there. Every soccer game, every graduation, every moment that mattered. When she got into Stanford, I sold my car. When she needed rent money, I took a second mortgage. When she said, "I want to be a lawyer," I said, "You will be." At her law school graduation, Ashley stood at the podium and said, "I did this all by myself. I'm proud of my independence." I stood in the back, clapping. Nobody knew about the $70,000 in loans I'd co-signed. Nobody knew about the nights I ate ramen so she could eat steak. I thought sacrifice was love. I thought giving everything meant something. But what Ashley never knew was this. I had been planning for my freedom all along. Stanford tuition in 2002 was $37,000 a year. Room and board, another $15,000. Books, living expenses, the laptop she desperately needed. It added up fast. I liquidated my retirement savings, took out a home equity loan, picked up weekend work at 3 different shops. Ashley called every Sunday. "Dad, I need money for..." And I always said yes. Spring break in Cancun with friends? Yes. Summer abroad program in Italy? Yes. The brand new BMW for her 21st birthday because everyone else has nice cars? Yes. When she graduated summa cum laude, the whole family celebrated. Ashley hugged me and whispered, "Thanks for believing in me, Dad." That was worth every sacrifice. Every sleepless night, every skipped meal. Then came law school, another $150,000. I was 58, exhausted, running on fumes. But I had a plan. Something I'd started 23 years earlier that Ashley knew nothing about. While she saw a father living paycheck to paycheck, I was building something else, something secret, something that would change everything when the right moment came. The Adventure Fund, 2 words that would redefine our relationship forever. 1999, Ashley was 15, obsessed with college prep courses and designer clothes. I opened a separate savings account at a different bank. Account name, Adventure Fund. Starting balance, $200 from overtime pay. Every month I deposited whatever I could spare. $200 here, $300 there. Sometimes just $50 when money was tight. I had a small notebook where I tracked every deposit. "For the day I'm free to dream again," I wrote on the first page. Ashley never knew about those weekend jobs. The extra shifts, the consulting work I did for smaller engineering firms. She thought I was just getting by day to day. That's what I wanted her to think. While she complained about not having enough spending money, I was building my escape fund. While she rolled her eyes at my old man hobbies, I was planning adventures she couldn't imagine. The fund grew slowly but steadily. 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Each deposit felt like a small act of rebellion, a promise to the man I used to be before I became just Ashley's dad. I was playing the long game, and Ashley had no idea what was coming. Working on the 747 project taught me something valuable about patience and compound interest. Engineers think in decades, not quarters. We plan for stress tests and safety margins. I applied that same thinking to my adventure fund. Boeing paid well, especially with overtime and bonuses. But Ashley saw none of those extra checks. I learned to live on my base salary and funnel everything else into my secret account. She thought I was financially naive, always worried about money. The truth was, I understood money better than she ever realized. I studied investment strategies during lunch breaks, moved the fund into high-yield savings, then conservative mutual funds. By 2010, I had $50,000. By 2015, $150,000. By 2020, over $400,000. Ashley would visit and lecture me about planning for retirement and being more responsible with money. She had no idea I'd already planned for multiple retirements. She saw an old man struggling with bills. I was actually building wealth more systematically than most people half my age. The beautiful irony? Ashley, the Stanford-educated lawyer, thought her blue-collar father was financially illiterate. Meanwhile, this simple mechanic had quietly assembled a fund that would finance 6 months of first-class travel around the world. She was about to learn that wisdom doesn't always come with a law degree. Hidden in my bedroom closet, behind old work boots and forgotten Christmas gifts, I kept a leather journal. 40 years of travel dreams lived in those pages. Pictures cut from National Geographic, hotel brochures from Alaska, Scottish castle tours, New Zealand hiking trails. Every few months I'd add something new. A sunset photo from Santorini, an article about the Northern Lights, a train schedule through the Swiss Alps, page after page of carefully planned adventures, waiting for the right moment. Ashley found it once in 2018 while helping me organize my clutter. She flipped through pages of dream destinations and travel itineraries. "Dad, this is just fantasy. You need to be realistic about your limitations. You're 72, not 22. I took the journal back without arguing. Let her think what she wanted to think. But I didn't hide it because I was embarrassed. I hid it because I'd already decided to make every page come true. That night, I opened my laptop and researched luxury travel packages. First-class flights to Anchorage, 5-star lodges in Scotland, private tours through Milford Sound. I calculated costs, compared vendors, read reviews. While Ashley thought I was watching TV reruns, I was planning the most elaborate travel itinerary of my life. Every destination from my dream journal would become reality. The only question was when to pull the trigger. In 2019, I quietly updated my will. Ashley assumed she was the automatic heir to everything: the house, my retirement accounts, my life insurance. Most adult children make that assumption. They're often wrong. I drove to Hartwell and Associates downtown, told them I needed to modernize my estate planning. The lawyer, Margaret Hartwell, walked me through every option: beneficiary designations, trust structures, power of attorney limitations. Mr. Sullivan, these changes will significantly impact your daughter's inheritance. Are you certain about this? I was certain. Changed my life insurance beneficiary from Ashley to the National Education Foundation. Updated my 401k to benefit a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. Revised my will to leave Ashley only personal items and family photographs. The house stayed in my name only. Always had been. Ashley moved out after college and never looked back. But she talked about our family home like she owned half of it. Legally, she owned 0%. I also updated my medical directives, removed Ashley as power of attorney, appointed my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, as emergency contact. If something happened to me, Ashley wouldn't automatically control my decisions anymore. Every signature felt like taking back pieces of myself I'd given away. For 20 years, I'd structured my entire life around Ashley's needs and expectations. Now I was restructuring it around my own. Those documents would become the foundation of my quiet revolution. Last Christmas, I showed Ashley my vintage Boeing compass from the 747 project. Solid brass, perfectly calibrated, engraved with the project completion date. It represented 30 years of precision engineering. To me, it was priceless. Ashley picked it up, turned it over like it was junk from a garage sale. "Dad, you need to throw away this old stuff. You're becoming a hoarder. This is just taking up space." Her husband, Kevin, laughed. "Maybe we should call one of those cleanup services. Get rid of all this clutter." I quietly took the compass back and put it in my desk drawer. That compass had guided aircraft across oceans. It had been part of something magnificent, something that mattered. And my own daughter called it garbage. It represented my journey, I tried to explain. "Your journey is over, Dad. Time to let go of the past." That night, I held the compass in my hands and realized something profound. In Ashley's eyes, I wasn't a man with a history worth preserving. I was just an old man cluttering up space with meaningless objects. I felt something cold settle in my chest, a quiet anger I'd never experienced before. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. I wasn't ready to play my hand. 3 months ago, Ashley suggested I let her manage my finances. We were sitting in my kitchen, and she had that tone she uses with difficult clients. "Dad, you're getting older. You might start making bad financial decisions. I think we should put your assets into a family trust with me as trustee, for your own protection." I sipped my coffee and asked, "What makes you think I can't handle my own money?" "Don't be stubborn. I'm a lawyer. I understand these things better than you do. I'm just looking out for your best interests." Her best interests, more likely. I'd watched enough friends lose control of their assets to well-meaning children who thought they knew better. Once you sign that power of attorney, you become a passenger in your own financial life. "I think I can manage just fine," I said. Ashley's jaw tightened. "This isn't about pride, Dad. This is about reality. You worked construction and fixed cars. I went to Stanford Law. Trust me on this." I felt my blood pressure rising, but I kept my voice steady. "I'll think about it." That conversation told me everything I needed to know. Ashley didn't see a competent adult. She saw an incompetent old man who needed managing. She was about to learn how wrong she was. 2 weeks before the barbecue, I made a mistake. I trusted Ashley with my dreams. We were having dinner at her house, and I mentioned wanting to see Alaska. "I've dreamed about it for decades. The glaciers, the northern lights, the wilderness. I think I'm ready to make that trip." Ashley and Kevin exchanged one of those looks. The kind married couples give each other when dealing with a confused elderly relative. "Dad, you're 72. Those adventure days are over. You need to accept your limitations." "Think about medical emergencies," Kevin added. "Insurance costs. What if something happens in the middle of nowhere?" Ashley nodded. "Exactly. And the expense. You should be conserving money, not wasting it on fantasy trips. Be realistic." I went quiet. Let them think they'd convinced me. Maybe you're right. But inside I was furious, not just angry, transformed. They weren't protecting me from bad decisions. They were protecting their inheritance from my happiness. That night I went home and opened my laptop, researched the most expensive Alaska tour packages available, first-class everything, private guides, luxury lodges, the works. If they thought I was too old to travel, I'd show them exactly how wrong they were. They had no idea what was coming. I planned the barbecue carefully. Invited 15 people, neighbors, Ashley's lawyer friends, Kevin's co-workers. I wanted witnesses. I wanted an audience for what I was about to announce. 3 days before the party, I bought new photo albums and printed pictures of every destination from my dream journal. Alaska, Scotland, New Zealand, the Maldives. 40 years of postponed adventures, organized into a beautiful presentation. I thought a public setting might inspire better behavior. Surely Ashley wouldn't disrespect her father in front of friends and neighbors. Surely she'd show some courtesy, even if she disagreed with my plans. I dressed carefully that Saturday. My best polo shirt, clean khakis. I even polished my shoes. Set up the grill early, prepared all Ashley's favorite foods, bought expensive wine for the guests. The photo album sat on the patio table like a loaded weapon I didn't know I was carrying. Everyone arrived on time. The conversation flowed easily. Retirement stories, travel experiences, bucket list dreams. People seemed genuinely interested in my engineering background. They asked thoughtful questions about my work on the 747 project. I felt validated, respected, like a man with stories worth telling. Then I stood up to make my announcement, and everything changed forever. The party was perfect. 15 people mingling on my back deck, drinks flowing, burgers sizzling on the grill. Ashley had invited 3 lawyer colleagues. Kevin brought 2 guys from his marketing firm. The neighbors from both sides came over. My friend Tom from the old Boeing crew showed up with his wife. Everyone seemed relaxed, happy. This was exactly the supportive environment I'd hoped for. The conversation naturally drifted toward retirement and travel. Tom talked about his RV trips across Montana. The neighbors shared stories about their cruise to Alaska. Kevin's co-workers discussed their European vacation plans. I found myself telling stories about the 747 project, how we solved engineering challenges that seemed impossible, how every component had to work perfectly or people would die. The guests listened with genuine interest, asking smart questions about aviation technology. For the first time in years, I felt like Derek Sullivan, the engineer, not just Ashley's aging father. I felt respected, valued, like a man whose experiences mattered. Ashley watched from across the deck. I could see her getting restless as people paid attention to my stories. She kept checking her phone, refilling her wine glass, trying to change the subject. I waited until everyone had eaten, until the mood was warm and comfortable. Then I retrieved my photo albums from the side table. I want to share some exciting news with all of you. I had no idea I was about to detonate a bomb. I've been planning something special for 40 years, I began, opening the first photo album. A world travel adventure that's finally ready to become reality. The photos drew people closer. Glacier Bay National Park, Edinburgh Castle, Milford Sound in New Zealand, each destination carefully researched and documented. These aren't just vacation spots, I explained. They're dreams I've carried since I was 30 years old. I've been saving and planning, and now I'm finally ready to make them happen. The reaction was everything I'd hoped for. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. "Jim, that's incredible. You deserve this after all your hard work." The neighbors nodded enthusiastically. "How wonderful! What an adventure!" Kevin's colleagues seemed impressed by the scope of my planning. "This is a serious bucket list, Mr. Sullivan. First class all the way?" "First class everything," I confirmed. 6 months of experiences I've dreamed about my entire adult life. I felt validated, supported, like my dreams mattered to people who cared about me. This was what family gatherings should feel like. Celebration, encouragement, shared joy. Ashley stood frozen across the deck. Her wine glass trembled in her hand. Her face was turning red, but I thought it was just embarrassment at being upstaged by her old man's exciting news. The best part is, I've saved enough to do this right. No shortcuts, no budget constraints. This is my time. Everyone smiled and raised their glasses. To Jim's great adventure. Then Ashley slammed her glass down on the table. "Dad, stop this nonsense." The deck went silent. Ashley stood with her fists clenched, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You're too old to travel. Stay home. This is completely irresponsible." I felt my face flush hot. 15 pairs of eyes turned toward us like we were actors in a play nobody wanted to watch. "Ashley, please." "No, I'm tired of pretending this makes sense. You're 72 years old." What happens when you have a medical emergency in the middle of Alaska? What happens when you fall and break your hip in Scotland? The guests shifted uncomfortably. Some started looking at their phones. Others suddenly found their drinks very interesting. "Stop being selfish. We need that money for our kids' future, not your ridiculous midlife crisis. Think about your responsibilities." My throat went dry. My hands started shaking. This wasn't disagreement. This was public humiliation. Complete character assassination in front of people I'd known for years. You need to act your age and stop embarrassing yourself with these fantasy trips. Kevin nodded in agreement. "Ashley's right, Dad. You should be more conservative with your finances at this stage of life." 15 people stared at me. Neighbors, friends, colleagues. Not one person defended me. Not one voice said, "Hey, maybe we should let Jim make his own decisions." I stood there holding my photo albums like a foolish old man with impossible dreams. Then something changed inside me. Something cold and calculating took over. I smiled, and that smile should have terrified them. The silence stretched forever. 15 people avoiding eye contact, pretending they hadn't just witnessed a daughter destroy her father in public. Tom cleared his throat. "Well, maybe we should get going. Early day tomorrow." Others followed his lead. "Yes, we should probably head home. Thanks for the barbecue, Jim. See you around." Within 10 minutes, the deck was empty except for family. Ashley and Kevin gathered their things without speaking. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had just happened. They left through the side gate like nothing had occurred. I stood alone among empty plates and half-finished drinks. The photo albums lay scattered on the table where I'd dropped them. 40 years of dreams reduced to embarrassing props in my daughter's intervention. The neighbors' houses were dark. The street was quiet. Even the crickets seemed subdued. I gathered the albums slowly, thinking about what I'd just learned. Ashley didn't see an independent adult making autonomous decisions. She saw a confused elderly man wasting her inheritance on selfish fantasies. More importantly, nobody in my social circle was willing to defend my right to live my own life. 15 people watched my daughter humiliate me, and not one spoke up. I realized I was completely alone. But you know what? For the first time in 20 years, that felt like freedom. I started laughing, quietly at first, then louder. The kind of laugh that comes when you finally understand a joke everyone else has been telling behind your back. That laugh should have warned them, should have made them nervous, because I wasn't broken. I was liberated. I cleaned up the party alone. Stacked plates, emptied glasses, folded chairs. Ashley and Kevin had left without offering to help. The neighbors were safely hidden behind their curtains. The street was cemetery quiet. By midnight, my house felt different, colder, like a prison I'd been assigned to for the crime of growing old. I sat in my kitchen with the photo albums spread across the table. Next to them, I placed my Boeing compass. The brass caught the overhead light, still perfectly calibrated after 30 years. A strange calm settled over me. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger requires hope that things might change. I was past hope. I was focused. I opened my laptop and typed a simple search. World travel packages, luxury, 6 months. The results were beautiful. Princess cruises, first-class flights, 5-star accommodations. Everything I dreamed about now within reach thanks to 23 years of secret planning. While Ashley thought she'd talked sense into a foolish old man, I was calculating exactly how to fund the most elaborate travel adventure of my life. The adventure fund had grown to $850,000, more than enough to travel like royalty for half a year. I started making a list, 12 steps to reclaim my life. Ashley was about to learn that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. Step 1 was research. I spent the entire night studying estate law, beneficiary rights, and asset protection strategies. 23 years of engineering training had taught me to be thorough. The house was in my name only, always had been. Ashley had moved out after college and never looked back, but she'd started referring to it as our family home, like she owned half. Legally, she owned 0%. My retirement accounts had beneficiary designations I could change any time. My life insurance policy? Same thing. Ashley was listed as the primary beneficiary on everything, but that was my choice, not a legal requirement. I researched world cruise packages until sunrise. First-class suites on luxury ships, private balconies, personal butler service, exclusive dining rooms. The Princess World Cruise, 6 months, 28 countries, every continent except Antarctica. Cost, $280,000 for the master suite. I had $850,000 in my adventure fund. Plenty left over for first-class flights, luxury hotels, and anything else I wanted to experience. While Ashley slept peacefully, confident she'd protected her inheritance from my selfish fantasies, I was architecting the most comprehensive lifestyle change of my life. By dawn, I had a complete 12-step plan. I wrote everything down on yellow legal paper. 12 steps to freedom. 1. Withdraw the adventure fund, $850,000. 2. Book first-class world travel, 6 months minimum. 3. Change all beneficiaries to educational charities. 4. Update will. Remove Ashley as executor. 5. Change house locks, security codes. 6. Update medical directives. Remove Ashley as power of attorney. 7. Redirect mail to post office box 8. Block Ashley's phone number. 9. Change emergency contacts to neighbors. 10. Arrange house maintenance during travel. 11. Cancel joint credit cards. 12. Leave comprehensive letter explaining new arrangements. Each step was legal. Each step was justified. Each step would restore my autonomy while teaching Ashley about consequences. The beautiful part? She'd brought this on herself. I hadn't planned any of this until she publicly humiliated me for having dreams. She'd forced my hand by treating me like an incompetent child who needed managing. I folded the list carefully and put it in my wallet. Then I showered, dressed in my best suit, and prepared for the most productive day of my life. Ashley thought she'd won. She thought her father would now be realistic and abandon his selfish fantasies. She had no idea what was coming. Monday morning, I walked into Wells Fargo and asked to speak with an account manager. The woman at the front desk looked surprised when I mentioned the size of the withdrawal I wanted to make. "Sir, you'll need to meet with our wealth management team for transactions over $50,000. 20 minutes later, I sat across from David Martinez, Senior Portfolio Manager. He pulled up my adventure fund account on his computer screen and whistled softly. "Mr. Sullivan, this shows a balance of $850,000. You want to withdraw how much?" "All of it. Cash and certified checks." His eyebrows shot up. "Sir, that's a substantial sum. Are you sure about this? We have investment options that might—" "I've been planning this withdrawal for 23 years. I'm absolutely certain." He studied the account history. Regular deposits, conservative growth, no previous large withdrawals. The perfect profile of a methodical saver finally cashing in. "This will require special handling. We'll need to order the cash from the Federal Reserve. The certified checks I can prepare today, but the full amount will take 48 hours. "Perfect. I'll take $200,000 in certified checks now. The rest in cash on Wednesday." That number made David lean back in his chair. This wasn't an elderly man making confused financial decisions. This was a calculated move by someone who knew exactly what he was doing. From the bank, I drove to Wanderlust Travel downtown. I'd researched them online. They specialized in luxury travel for sophisticated clients. Perfect. The agent, Maria Santos, looked up when I mentioned my budget. "You're interested in a 6-month world travel package with a budget of $300,000? First class everything. Private suites, butler service, exclusive dining. I want to experience the world like I've earned the right to be there." She pulled up options on her computer. "We have several packages that would work beautifully. The Princess World Cruise visits 28 countries over 180 days. Master Suite with private balcony runs about $280,000, including all gratuities and shore excursions. Book it." "Sir, don't you want to see the itinerary first? Discuss the details?" I leaned forward. "I've been planning this trip for 40 years. I know every port, every excursion, every detail I want to experience. Just book the best of everything." 2 hours later, I walked out with confirmed reservations for the most elaborate travel adventure of my life. First-class flights to meet the ship in Copenhagen, the Master Suite on Deck 12, private dining in the Crown Grill, shore excursions in every port. Meanwhile, Ashley was probably at her law firm, confident she'd save me from myself. Tuesday morning brought me to the law office of Margaret Hartwell. I'd scheduled an estate planning update appointment. "Mr. Sullivan, you want to change all your beneficiary designations?" "That's quite comprehensive." I handed her my list. "Remove Ashley Sullivan Matthews as beneficiary on my life insurance, retirement accounts, and investment portfolios. Replace her with the National Education Foundation." Margaret reviewed the paperwork carefully. "This represents approximately $400,000 in benefits. Are you certain about this change?" "Completely certain." "What about your will? Currently, Ashley inherits your house and personal assets. Change it. House goes to the National Education Foundation after my death. Ashley gets personal items and family photographs only." Margaret paused. "Mr. Sullivan, this is a dramatic change. Have you discussed this with your daughter?" "That's not necessary. These are my assets to dispose of as I see fit." She was right to ask. Most people don't drastically alter their estate planning without family discussions. But most people don't get publicly humiliated by their children for having dreams. "I'll also need you to update my medical directives. Remove Ashley as power of attorney. Replace her with my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson." An hour later, I signed documents that stripped Ashley of every assumption she'd made about her inheritance. Every signature felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Wednesday afternoon, I called Premier Security Services. "I need all locks changed today. Complete rekey of the house and garage." Ashley had a key and used it whenever she pleased. "Just checking on Dad," she'd say, walking into my house unannounced like she owned the place. Those days were over. The locksmith, Ray Morrison, arrived within an hour. "High-security deadbolts? Smart locks with mobile access? What level of security are we talking about?" "Maximum. I want locks that can't be picked, bumped, or bypassed. Change the garage door codes, too." Ray worked systematically through every entry point. Front door, back door, side gate, garage. He installed commercial-grade deadbolts and updated the security system with new access codes. "These are serious locks, Mr. Sullivan. Military-grade hardware. Very expensive, but nobody's getting through them without your permission." I tested each new key. The brass felt different in my hand, heavier, more substantial. Each lock clicked with authority when I turned it. "Perfect fit," I said. "Should I make spare keys for family members?" "No, just the set for me." That evening, I changed all my passwords, updated my security system, and activated new monitoring protocols. My house had become my fortress. Ashley would discover the changes soon enough. Thursday morning, I updated all my emergency contacts. Ashley's number came off every medical record, every account, every service that might need to reach someone on my behalf. Mrs. Peterson from next door became my primary emergency contact. She was 82, sharp as a tack, and understood boundaries. When I explained the situation, she nodded grimly. "Some children forget their parents are adults, dear. You do what you need to do." I removed Ashley as my power of attorney for healthcare decisions, updated my hospital directives, changed my pharmacy emergency contact, even called my car insurance company to remove her from my authorized contact list. Then came the hardest part. I blocked Ashley's phone number. My cell phone had a simple process: settings, phone, blocked contacts, add number. Ashley's name appeared on the blocked list like a legal restraining order. I sat staring at the screen for several minutes. This felt final. This felt like burning a bridge I'd built with 20 years of unconditional love and support. But Ashley had made her choice when she humiliated me in front of 15 people. She'd chosen to treat me like an incompetent burden instead of respecting me as her father. I sent one final text. "Going traveling. Don't call." Then I deleted her contact entirely. Friday was packing day. One suitcase for 6 months of first-class travel. It required strategic thinking. I chose my best clothes, comfortable shoes, essential medications, and the few personal items that truly mattered. The Boeing compass went into my carry-on bag. My photo album stayed behind. I'd be creating new memories, not reliving old ones. Ashley's gifts over the years, the ties, cufflinks, cologne, stayed in their drawers. I was taking only things that represented who I was, not who she wanted me to be. I left the house immaculate, paid all bills 6 months in advance, arranged for lawn service and house maintenance through Premier Property Management. Mrs. Peterson had my travel itinerary and power of attorney for any home emergencies. My refrigerator held a single envelope addressed to Ashley. She'd find it eventually, when curiosity overcame her anger about being blocked. Inside was a detailed explanation of all the legal changes I'd made, plus a copy of my travel itinerary. The letter ended with 2 sentences. "Respect is earned, not inherited. Learn the difference." I loaded my suitcase into my Toyota Camry and took one last look at the house where I'd raised Ashley alone. 30 years of memories lived in those rooms, but my future was waiting at the airport. SeaTac Airport at 6 a.m. was bustling with travelers, but I felt like I was floating above the chaos. First-class check-in took 2 minutes. No lines, no stress, just efficient service from people trained to treat you like royalty. "Mr. Sullivan, you're in seat 2A today. First-class lounge access is included. Your flight to Copenhagen boards in 2 hours." The Alaska Airlines first-class lounge was a revelation. Leather chairs, complimentary top-shelf drinks, gourmet food stations, and panoramic views of the runways. I ordered a Macallan $1830 whiskey that cost me nothing because I'd finally decided to live like I'd earned it. Boarding was seamless. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Sullivan. I'm Jennifer, your lead flight attendant. Please let me know if you need anything during our flight." My seat converted into a fully flat bed, personal entertainment system, noise-canceling headphones, fine china for dinner service. The menu offered filet mignon and lobster tail. The wine list featured bottles that cost more than Ashley spent on groceries. As we lifted off, Seattle disappeared below the clouds. I was leaving behind everything familiar and entering a world where I was valued, respected, and treated like I mattered. The old Derek Sullivan would have felt guilty about the expense. The new Derek Sullivan ordered another whiskey and started planning his next adventure. 3 days later, I stood on the deck of a helicopter above Glacier Bay National Park. The pilot, Jake Morrison, was giving us the tour of a lifetime. "Mr. Sullivan, in 30 years of flying, I've never seen anyone tear up at the ice fields before. But I couldn't help it. 40 years of dreaming, and here I was experiencing Alaska in ways I'd never imagined possible. Pristine wilderness stretching forever, glaciers that had been forming since before civilization began, bald eagles soaring past our helicopter like we were intruding on their private kingdom. First time to Alaska? Jake asked through the headset. First time living, I replied. That evening, at the luxury lodge in Denali, I sat on my private balcony watching the northern lights dance across the sky. The aurora painted green ribbons against stars brighter than any I'd seen from Seattle. I pulled out my phone and composed a postcard message to Ashley. Dreams dawn come true at 72. Alaska is everything I imagined and more. Learning that it's never too late to follow your compass. Dad. I didn't send it immediately. Let her worry about where I was and what I was doing. Let her wonder whether blocking her father's phone number had been a mistake. Back home, I had no idea that Ashley was beginning to panic. Ashley arrived at my house on Tuesday morning for her weekly check-in. She'd been calling my phone for 3 days with no response. Now she was getting worried enough to show up unannounced. Her key didn't work. She tried it again, thinking maybe she'd grabbed the wrong key ring. Still nothing. The lock had been changed to something completely different. What the hell? She muttered, walking around to the back door. That lock was different too. New hardware. New everything. She tried the garage door opener in her car. The code had been changed. Ashley stood in my driveway, locked out of the house she'd always considered partially hers, and felt the first spike of real panic. Mrs. Peterson emerged from her garden next door. Oh, hello, Ashley. Derek said you might try to get in. Mrs. Peterson, do you know where my father is? I can't reach him, and he's changed all the locks. The older woman smiled pleasantly. He's traveling, dear. Didn't he tell you? He seemed very excited about his adventure. Traveling? Where? For how long? He didn't say, but he left instructions that the house was to remain secure while he was gone. Said something about privacy and boundaries. Ashley felt her stomach drop. This is my inheritance. Mrs. Peterson's smile turned cold. Actually, dear, it's his house. Ashley called my number 47 times in the next hour. Every call went straight to voicemail. The number you have called is not accepting calls at this time. She'd been blocked. Her own father had blocked her phone number. In desperation, she called the police. My father is missing. I can't reach him, and he's changed all the locks on his house. The dispatcher was professional, but unhelpful. Ma'am, if he changed his own locks and is traveling voluntarily, this isn't a police matter. Has he been declared incompetent? No, but then he has the right to change his locks and travel without notifying adult children. Unless you suspect foul play or elder abuse, we can't intervene. Next, she called my bank. I need information about my father's accounts. Derek Sullivan. I'm sorry, we can't discuss account information with anyone except the account holder unless you have power of attorney. But I'm his daughter. That doesn't grant access to private financial information. You'd need legal documentation. Ashley tried my doctor, my insurance company, even my old colleagues at Boeing. Every conversation ended the same way. Without legal authority, she had no right to information about my personal affairs. For the first time in her adult life, Ashley faced a terrifying reality. She had no control over her father whatsoever. Ashley broke into my house through the basement window, technically trespassing, but she was beyond caring about legalities. She needed answers, and she needed them now. The house felt different. Too clean, too organized, like someone had prepared for a long absence. The refrigerator was nearly empty except for condiments and a sealed envelope with her name on it. Her hands shook as she opened it. Ashley, by the time you read this, I'll be traveling the world in first-class accommodations. The dreams you called ridiculous fantasies are now my reality. I've made several changes you should know about. 1. All beneficiary designations on my insurance and retirement accounts now benefit educational charities instead of you. 2. My will has been updated. The house goes to charity. You inherit personal items only. 3. You are no longer my emergency contact, power of attorney, or medical decision-maker. 4. Mrs. Peterson has legal authority for any home emergencies. These changes are legal, permanent, and non-negotiable. They reflect my assessment of how you view our relationship as a financial arrangement rather than a family bond. Everything you thought you'd inherit is gone. The respect you thought you were owed has been revoked. The control you assumed you had never existed. You called me selfish for wanting to travel. I call you selfish for assuming my assets were yours to manage. Derek Sullivan. P.S. Look for your childhood gift on my desk. Ashley walked to my desk with trembling legs. There, Positioned prominently in the center sat the Boeing compass she'd told me to throw away. A note was attached with a rubber band. "You called this junk." It represented everything I achieved in 30 years of engineering. It guided aircraft safely across oceans, and you dismissed it as worthless clutter. She picked up the compass with shaking hands. The brass was cool and heavy, perfectly balanced. The engraving read, Boeing 747 Project Completion, Derek Sullivan, Lead Engineer, 1994. Her father had been the lead engineer. She'd never bothered to ask about the details of his work, just assumed he was some kind of maintenance worker who fixed things. She'd dismissed his pride in the 747 project as an old man living in the past. The compass needle pointed true north, just as it had for 30 years. Reliable, dependable, accurate, like the man who'd owned it. Ashley sank into my desk chair and began to cry. Not the angry tears of someone being denied something they wanted, but the devastating tears of someone realizing they'd destroyed something precious through their own arrogance. She'd treated her father like a burden instead of recognizing him as a man who'd guided commercial aviation projects worth billions of dollars. She'd called his expertise worthless while building her own career on the education he'd sacrificed everything to provide. The compass pointed north, but Ashley had lost her way completely. Monday morning, Ashley sat across from her law partner, Michael Chen, with my letter spread across his desk. "Can we contest this? Challenge the beneficiary changes? Claim diminished capacity?" Michael reviewed the documents carefully. "Ashley, this is textbook estate planning. Every change is properly documented and legally executed. There's no evidence of coercion, fraud, or incapacity." "But I'm his daughter. Doesn't that count for something?" "Filial relationships don't create automatic inheritance rights. Your father can distribute his assets however he chooses, as long as he's mentally competent." Ashley leaned forward desperately. "What about the house? I've been living there off and on for years, helping with maintenance. The deed shows sole ownership in your father's name. You have no legal claim to that property." "The life insurance?" "Beneficiary designations override will provisions. If he changed you to a charity, that's binding." "The retirement accounts?" "Same thing. The account owner controls beneficiary designations entirely." Michael set the papers down gently. "Ashley, from a legal standpoint, your father executed a perfectly planned asset protection strategy. Every change was within his rights." "But this is vindictive. Cruel." "Cruel, maybe, but not illegal. And frankly, given your profession, you should understand that property rights don't evaporate just because family members feel entitled to them." Ashley stared at the documents, finally understanding that her law degree was useless against her father's methodical planning. 3 weeks later, Ashley received a postcard. The image showed the Eiffel Tower at sunset, and there was my handwriting on the back in blue ink, learning that it's never too late to follow your compass. Paris is magnificent. The art, the culture, the food, everything I dreamed it would be. I'm not too old. I'm finally free. The world is beautiful when you see it with respect instead of obligation. Yesterday, I stood in the Louvre looking at paintings I've wanted to see for 40 years. Tonight, I'm dining at Le Jules Verne on the second floor of the Eiffel Tower. Thank you for forcing me to choose between your approval and my happiness. I chose happiness. The compass you called junk guided me here. Dreams don't have expiration dates. Neither does self-respect. A father who found his way home. Ashley turned the postcard over and studied the photo. There I was, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower, holding the Boeing compass and smiling like a man who just discovered treasure. I looked 10 years younger, confident, happy, free. She realized this wasn't about money or inheritance or travel expenses. This was about respect. This was about seeing me as a man with his own dreams instead of just a resource for her security. The postcard had no return address. I was somewhere in the world, living fully, while she sat in my empty house wondering how she'd lost her father. I'm writing this from a cafe in the Scottish Highlands, overlooking Loch Katrina. The compass sits on the table next to my coffee, its needle pointing toward home. But home isn't a place anymore. Home is where you're respected for who you are, not managed for what you own. I spent 40 years building someone else's dream, sacrificing my adventures so Ashley could have hers. I told myself that's what good fathers do. Maybe it is. But good children don't repay that sacrifice with public humiliation and financial manipulation. The adventure fund is nearly empty now, but I've never been richer. I've seen the northern lights dance across Alaska. I've stood in the Louvre surrounded by masterpieces. I've cruised through fjords that took my breath away. Most importantly, I've remembered who Derek Sullivan is beneath all those years of being just Ashley's father. Tomorrow I fly to New Zealand for the final leg of my journey. 6 months of first-class adventures, exactly as I planned them in my secret journal. Ashley can have the house when I'm gone. She can have the photo albums and family heirlooms. But she'll never again have power over my choices or disrespect for my dreams. I found my way home by following my compass away from people who couldn't see my worth. Dreams don't have expiration dates, and neither does dignity.